Hey guys, Andrew Shrout. I'm here on the sideboard. I'm here with Reid Duke.
Hello.
And you were the finalist in the Season 3 Invitational, which is how you earned your seat here at the Players' Championship.
Yeah.
And you earned that seat with Miracles.
Yep.
So we're here today to talk about your Legacy deck, and surprise, surprise,
Old Faithful.
running it back.
Yes.
All right. So let's start from the top. Although we're starting with Brainstorm, it's like I feel like you're playing Brainstorm.
Yeah, Brainstorm and Sensei's Divining Top are really the bread and butter cards for this deck. These are the cards that you want to see in every game because your deck does not function particularly well without them.
Sure
4
enough.
copies each.
Okay. Yeah, 4 Counterbalance, 4 Sensei's Divining Top. That's the lock. That's kind of like one of the major tools of this deck.
Yeah, Counterbalance, I actually have gone back and forth between 3 and 4 copies in the past, but for this tournament, where I'm expecting, Miracles, Mirror Match, Delver, and Combo basically is most of the field. I really just wanted the full complement of counterbalances. Also, when you play against a good player, it's a great way to just steal a game. Just turn 1 top, turn 2 counterbalance, and get an easy win like that, which you don't get very many easy wins against these players.
Fair enough.
I'll take as many as I can get.
Whenever you get the 1-2 punch,
yep.
may as well run it out there. All right, the namesake, of course, of the deck, the Miracles, the card with the Miracle mechanic. 2 Terminus. That's actually...
That's quite low for 2 reasons. I'm lower on sweepers in general because the Delver decks have a bit more staying power these days, and also the players that I'm going to be facing are going to be, I think, pretty conservative, pretty careful, not really running too many threats into a sweeper. Also, with me having my own dig through times, which we'll get to later, I wanted to err on the side of more like cheap 1-for-1s, fill my graveyard, and then restock later instead of trying to set up a big turn with a sweeper. So I'm leaning a little bit less heavily on Terminus, and I've also split Terminus with Supreme Verdict for this tournament.
All right, so we do have some sweepers, just not the full boat of Terminus.
Yeah, not quite as many as I've played in the past.
Still 2 Entreat the Angels, though.
Yeah, that's been steady for me for as long as I've played Miracles. It's just really powerful, reliable finisher. Not a card you want to see in your opening hand for obvious reasons, but you really want 2 in the deck to make sure you can win the late game.
All right. And then the other win condition, everyone's the best teammate in Magic, Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yeah, it really, really broke my heart that day when I finally cut the 4th Jace. I've been holding out for so long, but there's a lot of red blasts, a lot of lightning bolts kicking around, and with Dig Through Time giving me a little bit of extra late game power, I think I can safely go down to 3 Jaces.
Okay. But we're certainly not cutting them. It's like just cutting one.
Just cutting one, yeah.
Just so we don't get Jace flooded, right? All right, fair enough. And then the removal suite, 4 Swords to Plowshares.
Yeah, I really value just the super reliable 1-mana answer card to make sure you can get to the late game, because with this deck, you're pretty comfortable winning the late game as long as you can get there at a reasonable life total.
Okay. 3 main deck blasts.
Yeah.
The Miracles decks were basically the first decks that started main decking blasts. Now everyone's doing it. It seems
yeah,
like,
I followed Joe Lassette's lead, my competitor in this tournament, on main decking the red blasts, and I think is a genius move and has gotten just better and better as more people are playing Treasure Cruise. This tournament in particular, I expect a huge majority of players to be playing blue, which is why I've made the maybe a little bit risky call of main decking 3.
Okay. And then still more removal, 2 counter spells, 2 Council's Judgments, the 1 Verdict that you alluded to earlier.
Yeah, Supreme Verdict is very good against Delver. Terminus can be countered, Supreme Verdict can't.
Right.
And also with Dig Through Time being very adept at putting like pinpoint perfect answers directly into your hand, it makes a lot of sense to just have the no questions asked, cast it from my hand for an affordable cost, wipe the board, win the game card.
Right. And then these are just the most efficient answers. Maybe not the most efficient, I guess, in Counterspell's case, but
Counterspell and Council's Judgment
answers,
are not the most efficient, but the most reliable, I would say. They just always do exactly what you need them to do. And that's what it's all about.
All right. And then 3 Force of Will.
First time in my life I've ever registered in between 0 and 4 Force of Wills, and I wish I had a eloquent reason for why I did it, but really I just had 61 cards that I wanted to play, and I couldn't bring myself to cut any other card in the deck, so I moved one of the Force of Wills to the sideboard.
Okay, and that's been a way that people have built legacy decks, I think, for several years, right? Just have
in general, I've been pretty critical of people that have played 3 Force of Wills, because the normal reason to play 3 copies of a card is if you don't want to draw 2. You draw 2 Force of Will, you just pitch one to the other.
Sure.
I would definitely play 4 if I had room, but just this, I was too nervous to cut any other card.
Okay. 3 Dig Through Time.
3 Dig Through Time. This card is great.
Sure.
It is. I've had people tell me just play Treasure Cruise instead, but this is basically a different deck and a different strategy from the Delver decks. It's not like you're going for turbo Dig Through Time. It's just the whole goal of this deck, as it's always been, is just to survive and tread water and make your land drops. And at a certain point in the game, you're able to cast your Dig Through Times, and it's just lights out for the opponent. You know, you find your perfect answers, you find another Dig Through Time, you know, whatever you need to survive, and in turn win at your convenience.
Okay. The mana base, we have the 4 Flooded Strain we just passed by, 4 Tarn, 2 Mesa, a lot of fetch lands to go with your tops.
Yep, 10 fetch lands go with the tops, go with the Dig Through Times, and I also have a lot of basics, so fetch lands are a good compromise, so to speak, in being able to play around Wasteland, but also get the colors that you need.
Okay. So we see the 1 Plateau here, 1 Volcanic, 3 Tundra, and then the rest basics.
Yeah, very important to have a lot of basics because, as I've kind of been, the point I've been beating to a dead horse is that you just want to do nothing but make your land drops, and then you'll win at your convenience. But if you allow your opponent the flexibility to disrupt your land drops, then you might never get to that late game stage that you built your deck for.
All right. Before we get to the sideboard, again, we'll talk a little bit about your preparation. This is a small tournament. You can put your opponents on a pretty specific deck for a lot of them. And in this case, actually, I think a lot of people, if they were asked, would say that you were probably going to show up with Miracles.
Yeah, but you know what? That ability to predict the field is an advantage to control decks more so than aggro decks, because control decks are really about your answer cards.
Sure.
If you can pinpoint the perfect answer for the perfect problem, that gives you a big advantage. Whereas I wouldn't really say that there's one card that my opponents could put in their deck that is just going to crush me. I mean, hopefully I'm not going to eat my words if there's just some crazy card from Legends that I've never thought of before. But I think I'll be relatively safe from
counter target Miracles
people
from 1994. Yeah. I can't think of one of those either, but there's something to worry about. So moving into your sideboard, I suppose then you were kind of tailoring your sideboard with the expected field in mind.
Yeah, you know, I went through, I researched what all my opponents have been playing in the past, and I still think the Legacy field's going to be pretty open, and there's a lot of question marks on next to certain players' names, what they might play, but I have a good idea of a certain gauntlet of decks that I'm going to have to beat if I want to do well in this tournament, and I definitely geared my sideboard for those. Okay,
let's start from the beginning then.
Yeah, Vendilion Clique's a card I've always played 2 copies of. It is great against combo. In addition to its disruptive aspect, it also is just an instant speed threat. That means you can win the game without ever tapping out, and that's very, very important. Instead of having to like tap out at a really dangerous time for Jace and then have like many turns before it pays back that initial investment, Vendilion Clique's just a lot safer, a lot more reliable against combo.
All right.
Good in the mirror match as well.
Sure. 2 Spell Pierce.
2 Spell Pierce. Want to have a certain number of 1 mana counter spells to just not lose on turn 1 or 2 against combo, because that's the easiest type of game to lose. Once you get to the mid game where all of your extra layers of defense, like your counterbalance and your counter spell, once those come online, you feel a lot more comfortable. But the early turns defending against their nut draws is where it's at. So I have a lot of 1 mana counter spells. And Spell Pierce in particular, I like having 2 copies against decks that play like Hymn to Turok Liliana. They come in there too. Okay.
2 Peacekeeper, this one, you've got to be preparing for specific individuals.
This is an anti-Tom Ross sideboard card. Tom beat me in the finals of the Invitational with Infect. Infect is a very tough matchup for Miracles, and it's one that I'm pretty confident I'm going to have to play if I want to win this tournament. Peacekeeper is the best card I could think of against them. I think Tom usually does not have answers or ways to remove it from the table. So, you know, just I'm not above trying to tease people out.
Well,
you know,
one thing you know when you get into the Players' Championship by losing in the finals to someone who's already qualified is that you've got to get through them again in order to actually win the Players' Championship, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you can't win a fair fight, you just go after that bad knee or whatever.
If you can't win a fair fight, bring a Peacekeeper.
Yeah.
Right? Seems reasonable. All right, the 4th Force of Will that we talked about.
Yep, mostly against combo, but there's some other matchups where I'd want access to all 4.
Okay, and I believe this is the 4th Red Blast.
Yep.
And then 2 blue Elemental Blast.
Yeah, blue Elemental Blast is good because it can come in against a lot of those combo decks, Sneak and Show or Burning Wish decks, whatever it might be. But also, one of the toughest cards to beat is Sulfuric Vortex. So just having a nice, healthy number of answers to that card is very important.
Gotcha. And rounding out, a couple of one-ofs. We have an Engineered Explosives, a Flusterstorm, and a Baneslayer Angel.
Yep, Engineered Explosives is back after not having played it for many years. This card tends to be a little bit mana inefficient, but I do value its flexibility. It can come in a number of matchups. 2 places in particular that I guess 2 reasons in particular that I have it. One is Jim Davis played Storm at the Invitational, one of the players in this tournament, and he had the Storm decks can kind of surprise you with a number of different sideboard cards. They could have Empty the Warrens, they could have Xanthid Swarm, Dark Confidant, Carpet of Flowers, and Engineered Explosives gives you insurance against all of these at the same time. In addition to, once in a while you just want to blow up their artifact mana. So this is a card that, not like it's the best card in the universe against Storm, but it gives a little insurance, corrects a lot of possible ways to lose the game.
Yeah. It's interesting. I would not have expected when I say, okay, well, what deck do you want Engineered Explosives against? The first thing you go to is like, yeah, it's for Storm.
It's a little weird, but it's an answer that you need.
Sure thing.
The other place is the Miracles Mirror Match because if you have enough mana, you can have some flexibility in how much mana you spend on your explosives in order to kill a counterbalance. So like if I think Joe Lissette, just for the sake of argument, maybe he's playing Miracles. Say I think he's floating a 2 mana spell on top. I can spend 3 mana, but 2 blue and 1 white on Engineered Explosives to get that counterbalance off the table. Also, you can just leave it on 0 to protect against Entreat the Angels.
Sure thing. The Flusterstorm for combo.
Storm, Show and Tell, anything like that.
All right. The Baneslayer, I've seen you do good work with. You played it at the Season 3 Invitational.
Yeah, mostly for Delver, but I mean, any random creature deck, Maverick, Goblins, anything like that. Any deck that doesn't have Jason Liliana, pretty much.
Just covering your bases, essentially.
Yeah.
All right. And then those sweepers.
Yeah, 2 more sweepers just to round out the defensive package against creature decks. Just not too much to say about those, but they're an important part of the deck.
Yeah, for sure. Seems reasonable. And that will be the deck. So Miracle's the deck of choice. Again, it got you almost to an invitational trophy last time.
Yeah.
And I think you've set yourself up well for a victory in like Invitational Part 2, Reid's Revenge.
Yeah, I certainly hope so.
I think we've got more than a few viewers actually hoping for a rematch there. So hopefully we can give them what they want.
Yep.
Thanks for coming in and walking through it with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Stick around. We've got plenty more coverage coming at the Players' Championship here in Roanoke.